Hi everyone, this is the video for topic 15, lesson 2, and in this video we're going to look at finding the volume of cylinders. So last lesson we learned that the volume is the amount of space inside a three-dimensional shape, or how much space a three-dimensional shape takes up. And instead of looking at a rectangular prism today, we're going to look at a cylinder. And a cylinder is a closed solid that has two parallel bases. And those parallel bases are usually circles. And those circles are connected by a curved surface. Let's first look at finding the volume of a cylinder when we have a radius. So much like finding the volume of a rectangular prism, finding the volume of a cylinder has a formula. And that formula is pi times r to the second power times h. And remember, if we take this and we stretch this out, this means pi times radius times the height. So if we come down here and we look at this example here, we have all the information that we need to solve it, right? Pi, let's not forget pi from our circles topic. Pi is going to have a value of 3.14. The height of our cylinder is, in this case, going to be the vertical line here, which is 3 inches. We can see that is 3 inches. Let's highlight all that in green. And then the radius of the cylinder we can see is 5. Remember, the radius going from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. In this case, we can see that that has a radius of 5. Much like volume of a rectangular prism, I'm just going to plug in my numbers into the formula, and then I'm going to use the calculator to help me with the multiplication. So first thing I like to do is write the formula. Pi times r times h. And then I'm going to substitute the numbers in for the correct variable. So again, pi, we are going to be using 3.14. The radius in this case, again, is 5 times the radius again, times the height, which in this example is 3. And then I like to multiply all the numbers on the right-hand side of this equation because they are whole numbers first. So 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 3 is 75. And then, of course, we're going to take that 75 and multiply it by pi, which is 3.14. And when we do that, we're going to get 235.5. And since this is volume, this would be inches to the third power. In the second example here, we'll look at finding the volume of a cylinder when they give you a diameter. Just like in topic 13 with the circles, if they give you a diameter and you need a radius, you are going to take the diameter and divide it by 2. So the radius equals the diameter divided by 2. Your formula for the volume of a cylinder is not going to change, right? It is going to be pi times r times h. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the last example. We're going to substitute those symbols out for the numerical values in the picture, and then we're going to use the calculator to help us multiply. So pi, again, pi, remember, is going to have a value of 3.14 for us when we do these problems. The height of the cylinder I can see here in purple is going to be 5 meters. So we will plug that in for H when it's time. The diameter in this case, the diameter is 6. Remember, diameter going all the way across the circle. And if the diameter is 6, that means that the radius is going to be half of that. So the radius is going to be 6 divided by 2, which of course is going to be 3. And now I have all the information I need to plug my numbers into the formula and do my multiplication. Again, I like to start by writing the formula. So the volume of a cylinder is pi times R times H. Going to plug in 3.14 for pi times, in this case, the radius was 3, times the radius again, 3, times height, which in this case was 5. And again, I like to do all the multiplication for the whole numbers first. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45 for this part. We're going to take 45 and we're going to multiply it by the 3.14. Again, I'm using my calculator to help me with this. And 3.14 times 45 is going to give me 141.3. And since this is meters, it's going to be meters. And since it's volume, it's going to be meters to the 3rd power. Go ahead and look at working backwards. And in these situations, I'm going to give you the volume, and I'm going to ask you to find the radius or the height. So very similar to some things we've done before. I'm going to use the same formula that we used above. So we're going to use volume equals I times R times R times H. And we are still going to substitute in the numbers for the variables that we know. In this case, do I know the volume? And the answer to that question is yes. I know that the volume is 47.728. So we can replace the V with that number. Do I know the value of pi? I do. We know that pi is 3.14. And we're going to multiply that pi by the radius. And in this case, we do know that the radius is 2 feet. So we can replace the R with 2. We're going to multiply that by the radius again, so we can place a 2 in there again. And then we're going to multiply that by the height, which is our missing piece. So we're going to leave that as H. I'm going to go ahead on the right-hand side and simplify the 3.14 times the 2 times the 2. And I'm just going to use my calculator. And pi times 2 is going to give me 12.56. So on the right-hand side, we're going to have 12.56 times H. On the left-hand side, we still have 47.728. And very similar to topic 5, I'm going to just solve this little multiplication equation. I see the H is being multiplied by 12.56. So I'm going to divide both sides by 12.56. And I'm going to do a little canceling. 12.56 and the 12.56 are going to cancel, which leaves me with H being equal to 47.728 divided by 12.56. And when I use the calculator to help me with that math, I can see that that is going to give me a quotient of 3.8, letting me know that the height of this cylinder is 3.8 feet. For the last example, we're going to find the missing radius using the volume. And similar to the problem we just did up above, we're going to start with our formula. So volume equals pi times, I'm actually going to leave this as r to the second power for this example, and we'll talk about that in a second, times h. I'm going to plug in the information that I know. I'm going to substitute in the numbers for their respective variable. So again, the volume, V, I do know the volume, so I'm going to replace V with the 47.728. That is a 7. We know that pi obviously is 3.14. We do not know what r to the second power is. And we do know that the height in this instance is 3.8. Similar to above, I'm going to multiply the 3.14 times the 3.8 on the right-hand side. And when I do that, that is going to give me 11.932. And we still have the times r to the second power there. On the left-hand side, we still have the 47.728. I'm going to divide both sides by 11.932. This will allow me to have my r to the second power by itself. Going to do a little canceling. So the 11.932 and the 11.932 on the right-hand side are going to cancel out. Essentially leaves me r to the second power being equal to whatever 47.728 divided by 11.932 is worth. I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator to figure that out. And that's going to tell me that r to the second power is equal to 4. However, I do not want the value of r to the second power. I just want the value of r. So in order for me to undo something that is raised to the second power, I need to take the square root of both sides. So the square root symbol again kind of looks like this little check mark on your calculators. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of r to the second power is going to give me r, and the square root of 4 is going to give me 2, letting me know that the radius is equal to 2 yards. I'd like to go ahead and try the 2 example problems down here at the bottom. If you have any questions or concerns at the end, make sure you ask one of your teachers so we can clarify. And you can check back in a few seconds to see the results for these 2 practice problems. All right, here are the results to the 2 practice problems that I wanted you to try on your own. Again, double check your work. Please make sure that you are getting the same answers I am. If you are not, then you need to check with one of us to make sure that we didn't make a mistake, or we can tell you the mistake that you're making. Pay extra special attention to this practice problem number 2. It's a little bit more complicated. Make sure you're understanding those processes. Again, if you do not understand something, please speak up. Have a good day.